to a very cold Ontario, Canada, where Chris Bentley starts on pole from Chris Cornwell and Dominic Hudson. Guillermo Perez starts fourth from Eichel Wolf and Kimi Nyla. His teammate Matthew Hart, to stay in title contention, must outscore Cornwell by 5 points. He's followed by Sims, Vaughn, Ortega, Ponte, Cilia, and Devin Butler, who starts 13th. Mario Klosky, Devin Butler, Zenzo, Vita Alves, Ray Shen, followed by Brazil's Rai Franco. Francis Austin starts 20th from Matthias Antonio, and Davi Circularo with the back row of Brandon Animates and Dominic Vansalau. The championship could be decided on a very cold day in Canada. The 13th round of the ChampCar World Series is go, and that's a great getaway there from Christian Bentley off the line. Chris Cornwell, however, getting a better one still on the outside, coming out of that opening kink on board with the 96 as they barrel down into turn number 1. And this is not where you want to be if you're Chris Cornwell. You don't want to be pinned to the outside and forced into the wall. After 4 consecutive race wins, Chris Cornwell is out in Ontario, Canada. That is great news for Matthew Hart. He only needs to finish 7th to stay in title contention. He drops behind Ortega, however, and Cornwell will win the championship despite not even finishing the race. Well, actually, no, he won't. Bentley's still in the hunt too. Also by a hair, he's about 65-ish points behind. So the win is more than necessary as we go green again. On board with Dominic Hudson. He's chasing down Christian Bentley. He's got his teammate Guillermo Perez for company. And look at that for Matthew Hart, trying to keep Sims at bay as Ortega gets alongside the Japanese driver, the 28, really hustling. The man in the 11 is Devin Butler. Oh, into the wall there for Akari and for Mario Klosky. Butler got a 5-second time penalty with contact towards Antonio Ponte as we go into lap 2 of 13, on board with Christian Bentley, heading down into turn 1 and 2. The real opening 2 corners is into the wall for the American driver, who is out. That will end the Sims Racing driver's man, and his hopes for the championship are gone. As it stands, he's going to leave here with the same points deficit and with 50 points left on offer next time out. The only man who can stop Chris Cornwell is a man currently situated in 5th place. We're green in Ontario. At the rate the things are going, you just want to keep your nose clean. It's very hard to generate heat, grip, temperature through these Firestone tires. Track temperatures not at all high, as Zenzo is heading off in his wall ride for the Brazilian rookie. Look at him there as the cautions are back out. Already a very stop-start race in the 13th round of the championship. Chris Cornwell, Christian Bentley, and Zenzo all out within a span of 2 laps. Matthew Hart is just hoping that he's not going to be put on that list of drivers who won't see the checker, because if he can't finish in the top 7, as I've already stated on the prior lap as we're green again, no top 7 finish for Matthew Hart, no championship. That's just how it is. As that is Matthias Antonio getting very close and personal with the wall. Perez dives down into the pits. His teammate Dominic Hudson in the 31, who won the opening round, leads the way. We've got yellows in sector 3 for Matthias, but it doesn't seem to be anything too crazy. Is into the wall for Kazuki Sims. He will lose 2, potentially 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 positions. Gets back out on track in front. of Devin Butler by a hair. That 10-second time penalty for the Englishman not helping as the cautions return, and that's for Guillermo. Guillermo Perez out on lap 3. On board with Danny Ortega. Has placed Spaniard in the race outside of the top 3, but still an oddly good weekend so far for Team Penske to be running up in 5th and 8th at this stage with few drivers coming in. Of course, with a lot of drivers wrecking, it does come down a lot to whether or not you finish. We're green from Ontario as we look back with a man who needs a good result today to stay in the hunt, to stay competitive. He's got Kimi Nyla right in front of him as well. Nyla, a rookie who has done more than impress, as gets alongside with Ica World, banging wheels, but keeping it very respectful as it gets close to the wall. Tries to switch back as they go onto the main straight. Who's going to get attack mode as we go onto lap 4? Nyla's got the inside going through the kink. And he's got attack mode in that 77. He's on the inside. And he's got it before they reach the braking point. That 9 car. Surely the soft compound tires on that 9 have had enough. 28% for Ica World after 4 laps. So they'll hold up a lot better than many would have predicted. But it's going to come down to grip more than anything. Is that a rear puncture? No. It's just the extent of the blisters as a caution comes out, and it's for Brandon Animates. Once again, we missed this one, as we did for Perez. But that will bring a speedy end to procedures, and that will allow Ica World to just calm down a little bit, it seems. He's driving a bit like a man scared. And as the cautions end, I do believe that we can announce 2 things about this team, and this driver, Ica World, will not be retained by Nord Hyperdrive next season, as they will move over to the Indy Racing League with Power Motorsport. Sims is going to stay here. I think Forsyth is moving over to the Indy Racing League as well. There's going to be a lot of teams that you might have heard of before, some that you might not have. There's Matthew Hart looking to the outside of Ica World. He's going to take that race lead as it stands, as the 3 men in front of him all dive down into the pits. Ahmed Cilia going for the lead, however, yellows caused by Belgium's Mario Klosky bring an end to that hope, and that charge for a lot of drivers, just slamming right into the wall there for the 22, as the 21 holds on to the race lead. Hudson comes out of the pits in 4th. Gonna have a lot of drivers coming out of the pits now, in fact. Let's watch Hudson barreling down into the opening corner, and he hits the wall! Big slide, airborne, on his side, and out of the race. Neither Target Chip Ganassi car will see lap 6 of 13, let alone the checkered flag. Well, the cautions are about to end. Here in Ontario, we're green as we watch Canada's home team, Forsyth Racing, lead the pack. And not just the pack as a whole, but also everyone who's coming to the pits. Kimi Nyla leads them 11 seconds behind his teammate. Is into the wall there for Lam Fong in the 73. Cooped up in the dirty air of that Team Penske 28. Danny Ortega doing what he can out there. And I think what he can is more than good enough as he comes through the chicane. 6th on the road right now. Could translate into something a lot bigger by the checkered flag, as in comes the leading 3. Hart, Cilia, and Ponte, all on medium tires, all opted to stay out as that's a big melee down in the final sector. Look at that. They're sliding Matthew Santonio in a straight line. And I think Sir Carrera just ran into someone there. Cautions come out! That is for Kimi Nyla, who has hit the outside wall. And that will put Iker World to the race lead. Well, that'll end a lot of the joy from the Forsyth camp. Matthew Hart re-emerges in this race in 5th, which is still keeping him on the fringes of championship contention. This late into the season, though, this much of a gap, even with Cornwell being the first man to retire from this race, I don't know if in these next 2 races it'll be enough, as Akari Lopez is next to fall. Another caution as we're now halfway through this race. That's just Canada. Look at the softs for Ray Franca. 42% after only 2 laps. As the cautions are now ending. Let's see how this goes. The restart, not the greatest for the Trackhouse man. Losing time to Matthew Hart and to Ahmed Cilia, who is flying on those soft compound tyres. And Danny Ortega's closing up to Iker World. On to lap 7 of 13 we go. Matteo Kloske, or Kloski. I still don't know how to correctly pronounce this man's name. Either way, he's up in 12th. As into the wall there for Iker! Big slide for the 9, as he's got front wing damage. Speaking of front wing damage, here's Lam Fong, still carrying the damage he had from a few laps prior, as it's bang into the wall for Antonio Ponte. Full course yellows are out. That puts us down to 15. 15 runners with 6 laps to go. At the rate we're going, I'll be surprised if we have anyone scoring 1 point today. That could be good news, right? For not just Iker in terms of helping his team, but also for Matthew Hart as we go green again. And for Matthew Hart, for a man who needs to keep his nose cone clean, he's getting into a bit of a battle here with both Ahmed Cilia and Lam Fong. He moves up into 3rd place, does the Scotsman, as the cautions return. And it's for Matteo Kloske, flying it into the wall and out. This is good for Matthew. The more yellows we have, the less of a likelihood that he's involved in a crash, because now he's on his own. He'd be chasing Iker, but I don't know if he wants to go after that second. Of course, from a championship perspective, you want to take that second. You want to take that win to cut that 55-point gap down to a 30-point gap if he can win this race. But at the rate that things are going, go too fast, you're gonna crash. As we've got yellows in Sector 3, that got cleared up quite quickly. It's Cilia versus Matthew Hart. On board with the 21 we go. He scores to the outside as the Italian does take 2nd place. That was a very slick move there from Ahmed. As look at that wing damage for Kazuki Sims, who brought out the yellow flag. Look at Shen going to the inside. That's close, but they keep it out of the wall. And they are dueling for 2nd. Danny Ortega, by the way, has been leading beautifully. He's looking for Sims Racing's... Not Sims Racing. Oh! That's Lam Fong out of the race. Got too enamored with me not being able to say Team Penske that we missed the Vietnamese driver crash out down at turn 2. And the yellows are... the yellows are back in any case. With 5 to go, I think Penske might be a favourite to win this race, actually. With a pit stop margin to guys at Ortega's going to be pitting with him. That's a very poor restart for the 11. Really has been a weekend to forget so far for Sims Racing. And you know what? For a lot of the teams, I think this is going to be one of those races where they are going to do all that they can to forget it. Cilia comes down into the pits in that 78 car. Ortega holding on to the lead. Matthew Hart still got attack mode heading down into turn number 1. And he's in the wall! Into the wall! For the 21! Look at that front wing damage! Truly was going a bit too fast there, wasn't he? He's gonna have to be very thankful that that wasn't anything worse like that! Like that! Eichelwald is out! Four to go. And I think... Now, I'm not a betting man. I'm saying the odds on favourite to win this race as it stands, just because he's never been involved in any incident. He's ran this race completely by himself. Danny Ortega in that 28. I think he's got a good shot of taking his first race win for Team Penske. The first win for Penske in the ChampCar World Series as we know it now. I believe they took some wins in Season 3 with Devin Butler. But with 3 laps to go, if you're a Danny Ortega fan, you're probably loving this. Down into turn 1 we go. Just needs to hold on tight here, and smartly he lifts. I don't know if there is a smarter move to do than to lift going through that opening complex of corners. In comes both Matthew Hart and Davi Circulera. Softs going on for what could be the Scotsman's final stint. Ahmed Cilia with a 5-second time penalty for causing a collision. That's with Ray Shen as Vita Alves is looking to move up to 3rd here. That's 78 with fresh tyres, flies into the walls, gets a bit of air. I think he hit the side of Vita, who moves up into 2nd place. And those hard tyres don't look all too fine and dandy. And a caution comes out, and it's for Matthew Hart. That right there is the end of the title hunt. And on lap 10 of 13, despite crashing out on lap 1, Chris Cornwell becomes the first man to take a championship in 2 different divisions of the ERL. We've got 11 drivers left running. Matthew Hart is not one of them. Into the pits for Danny Ortega. That's where he will begin his 11th lap of this Ontario Grand Prix. Softs going on. That can get him to the end comfortably, but he's going to have to manage his pace quite well, or at the very least hope for a caution. Let's look at that between Vancelau and Ahmed Cilia there. A KV Racing number 98. Not expected to stay at the team for next season. Coming through that final corner, we right on board with the 28, who has run a great race so far today and slides into the wall. The rear end getting in on the action. Looks like he had a bit of a tank slapper there. He holds on to the race lead, but he's got major front wing damage. Vancelau finds himself up in 3rd. That's great. Not as great for the 20. Big slide for Rai Franca. He's going to have to try and get it back onto the track cleanly now, and he does. Thankfully, gets his wheels fired up quite quickly, in fact. Going to ride on board with Kazuki Sims. Let's see how he takes the opening chicane. Very gingerly there. But honestly, I think gingerly is how most drivers should be approaching it. Because turns 1 and 2, that has not been very kind to these ERL ChampCar World Series drivers today. It really has not been. Here comes Davi Circulera to the inside and beyond. That's 4th place for the number 19. Who throughout the season, we haven't mentioned it too much, he's had links with Sims Racing develop, but he's opted not to keep them for next season. Butler with the fastest lap. So Carrera punches in another fastest lap as well in 4th, and Ortega keeps it out of the walls on the penultimate lap of this race. Even with that front wing damage, I think he should still be pretty good to the end. Look at Vancelal's tyres, they aren't looking too hot. It's out of the race for Davi Circulera. And now every man who sees the checkered flag is going to score points. Obviously, if you're in the top 10 and you see the checkered flag, you're going to score points anyway. But now there's only 10 drivers left here in Ontario. And 8% for Vancelal. Is that 1 lap too many for the German driver who's come from the back of the pack to 3rd? Will he even see the checker? We are green again. Butler is now 6 seconds off the back of Danny Ortega. It's been a while since we've seen that 71 take a race win. But I wouldn't be surprised if today of all days is the day where we see it happen again. 3%! 2% for the 98. As he heads down the back stretch. Is he going to be okay? He hits 0! Dominic Vancelal attempted to defy his tyre mileage and just hasn't been able to do it. It's a full car puncture for the 98. Here comes Francis Austin to take 3rd place in that final position on the podium away from him as we go on to the final lap here in Ontario, Canada. Team Penske has had a horror show of a ride in the Electric Racing League ChampCar World Series. But I think that horror story is going to end. Vancelal dives down into the pits. I think some of these medium tire guys might struggle on this lap, but I don't expect anyone in the wall, but Vita Elves has hit it into the wall and out of the race for Vita. And look at the margin. Devin Butler can now see Spain's only car left running in this race. Danny Ortega only leads by 1.5 seconds under these caution flags. He needs a good return to green. He can't use any attack charge. As we've already mentioned, with green again on this final lap, Butler's got all the attack charge that you could ever hope for, but he doesn't have any of the tire. 7%. He's closing, he's gaining, he's out of attack charge, and he didn't get attack mode. And I don't think it's going to be enough for the Englishman. Yellow's in sector 2 and another caution. That's for Rai Franca. Big in the wall there for the Trackhouse man, and I believe that's going to end it. And for Danny Ortega, and for Team Penske as a whole, they've been waiting. Even with monstrous front wing damage, that's not going to be enough to deter this Spaniard, who's going to come through the final corner in Ontario, Canada, finally, as an ERL race winner. Danny Ortega wins the ChampCar Grand Prix of Ontario. And oh, a full car puncture for Francis Austin. Terrible news for the Andretti number 23. But in any case, this is your podium. What a mixed up podium it is. Ortega taking victory for Team Penske from Devin Butler and Ray Shen. I'm just going to leave this on screen for you guys. I'm not even going to read out. Those are your finishes. Only the top 8. Everyone else didn't see the checker. So yes, that's Ortega, Butler, Shen, Antonio, Cilia, Vancelot, Austin, and Sims, the only men to make it to the checkered flag. And heading into the penultimate round of the championship, Chris Cornwell leads Matthew Hart by 55 points. He is the Season 7 ChampCar World Series champion. And he took it in a lot more comfortable form than he did in the FG Series. Hart is currently second. That can still change with Hudson in third from Sims and Bentley. Then it's Antonio, Perez, Kimi Nyla, and Ahmed Cilia, with Lam Fong running out the top 10. Akari Lopez is 11th from Daniel Ortega and Ray Franca. Then it's Devin Butler, Ray Shen, Mario Klosky, Ica World, Zenzo, Francis Austin, Brandon Animates, David Circulara, Dominic Vancelao, Antonio Ponte, and Vita Alves. In the constructors' standings, heading into the penultimate round of the championship, in Monaco, Nord Hyperdrive lead the way on 200 points from Forsyth and Sims 888. Then it's Target Chip Ganassi, Power Motorsport, and best of the rest, Conquest Racing in 6th. KB Racing, they are 7th from Trackhouse Racing and Dragon Racing on very good 60 points standing, and Brady Autosport, Team Penske, and Dale Coyne Racing. That is Chris Cornwell's first non-finish of the season, and yet it's the race that gives him a championship. Of course, next time out, we return to Europe before the Indianapolis Grand Prix. So from all of us here at Sparkplug Motorsport, thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time when the Electric Racing League's ChampCar World Series returns.